Kicks and Kicks is the only talk show that meets your sneaker and martial arts needs. I'm your host, Jacko, and today I'm here with politics student, kettlebell enthusiast, and big advocate of the carnivore diet, Charlie, or better known as the Kettlebell Carnivore. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
No, I'm good, thank you, and thanks for agreeing to be on the show. It feels like it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, so no, it's great to have you on. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been what, months in the making, probably. We've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm
Yeah,
glad we're finally sitting down to do it.
no, definitely. So I'll just give a bit of background basically on how we know each other, just to build a bit of context before we start and get into like the real meat and potatoes, because we've known each other pretty much our whole
No
lives.
potatoes, mate, no potatoes.
No potatoes, actually. Yeah, just the meat. Just the meat for this guy over here. We'll say fish and potatoes for me. So yeah, we've known each other pretty much our whole lives. In primary, we're in primary school together, secondary school, sixth form, and obviously after sixth form as well. We haven't always been in each other's immediate circles, but I'd say over the past year or two, we've got closer. We're mates now. He's helped me through a lot. I've learned a lot from him, and I don't want to speak for him, but I hope he's learned something from me as well. So, and some of those things hopefully we'll be touching on today. But
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
certainly had like a lot from you, mate. And yeah, like you say, it's been yeah, more or less our whole lives we've known each other. I feel like we got closer during kind of secondary school, sixth form type time. Just because I mean we were in a lot of the same classes. I mean it was a pretty standard thing. But it's been since we've kind of been growing up, leaving school, doing our own stuff. I mean you're obviously out in the real world like an adult. I'm at
yeah.
uni. But we're still yeah, much closer these days.
No, definitely. Yeah. I think saying that, something I forgot. I think we were in all the same classes together, weren't we?
More or less. Yeah, I mean we did
In
the same
sixth
A
form.
levels, didn't
Yeah.
we?
So
Yeah.
we were together for a lot of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today I thought we would just break it down into three like major sections, and obviously we can jump about if we need to. But we'll touch on footwear. I know you're not a huge sort of sneaker hype beast, but we'll go into some footwear stuff regarding what sneakers you wear to train, because I think you have a lot of value there to give. So we'll touch on that just quickly, and then we'll just break down the name basically. So we'll go into kettlebells and why you use them, and then the most exciting and the one I know least about is the carnivore diet. So we'll say that till last.
Looking
So
forward to it.
hopefully that sounds good. So sneakers. So I've mentioned it quite a few times actually. You've got the rookie year ones. Is that the rookie year Jordan ones? The
We
brown
do use
ones, right?
Jordan. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely shoe, and it pains me to see them getting destroyed in the Instagram money sessions constantly. When we were doing workouts together, you're wearing them out there, and when we're doing kettlebells and stuff. So I just thought maybe if you could share your thought process behind why you wear those instead of something really cushioned, for training
Mm.
or for running or something like that. So what's the thought process behind wearing
Sure.
them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had those shoes for several years now. I mean, to be honest, they're the only sort of really high quality sneakers that I own. I saw them the first time and I just loved them. And so at first, I wore them for like fashion. I wore them with other kind of nice brand name clothes. But I was looking into getting a pair of maybe Converse or something to lift in, because I'd done some research and I'd seen that a lot of kind of high level athletes, high level weightlifting types on Instagram and wherever else wore Converse and other kind of shoes that don't have a lot of support. They're fairly kind of bare bones. There's no cushioning, or very little cushioning in the sole of the shoe, um, which means that it requires you to work those kind of more like the stabilizing muscles in your legs. If you're doing, say, well, whatever it is, a deadlift or any kind of kettlebell exercise. I've done, for example, kettlebell swings in like a pair of Ultra Boosts. It's a completely different experience to, I mean, barefoot is ideal. I do it barefoot sometimes. But compared to those rookie of the years, like I say, completely different experience. And I find I get a little bit more kind of knee pain, joint pain, if I lift in really cushioned shoes. Like I say, I have a pair of Ultra Boosts, and they're kind of I don't know, I run in them occasionally.
Yeah, that's sort of
But
like your
even on the
comfort shoe. Yeah. When
yeah, comfort shoe, 100%.
you're
Like,
feeling a bit
yeah, like
weak that day, so you're like, oh, I'll just throw on the
100%.
old memory foam shoes. Yeah, no, no, it
No,
makes a
yeah,
lot
no,
of sense. Yeah. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
but well, all I was going to say is, yeah. So I mean, the main reason I wear those shoes to work out in is, I mean, for one thing, they look great, but for another, they just have that very bare bones kind of structure. I mean, they just cover up your foot. That's about it. They don't offer you any support. They don't offer you anything. It's just the look and the practicality of it, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And does that link at all to because you quite often wear jeans when you're working out as well, and I assume that's to sort of train yourself to be uncomfortable. It's probably sort of drawing from the same idea. Does that link exactly into that, or are there other reasons for that as well?
Yeah, well, that's for a few reasons. So I like to train. I kind of switch it up. Sometimes I'll train in proper gym gear, like Nike tracksuits and that sort of thing. Sometimes I'll train in, just shorts, like topless, snowshoes, nothing else.
Yeah, in
And
the rain.
sometimes I'll train, yeah, in the rain. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one. Um, and sometimes, like you say, I'll train in jeans and those Jordans, and like like a polo t-shirt or something like that. And the reason for that is because I'm a big believer in. I mean, the term functional training gets bandied about a lot, but I'm a big believer in training for real life. And in real life, you find yourself in a situation where you need to use what you've been training. You're not going to be there in a nice cushioned pair of Adidas and Nike shorts and a tank top. You're going to be wearing, I mean, I wear a lot of jeans. You're going to be wearing jeans. You're going to be wearing like regular shoes, be they trainers or, something. I wear Doc Martens, for example, quite often.
yeah,
And you're not training, most people don't train for, they don't train for those kind of real life situations. You see them, they're in the Nike gear. But as I say, I'm just a believer in the kind of functional side of things.
yeah. I suppose even in a non-combat situation or non-emergency, like even if you're helping, someone move house, or your job involves, heavy lifting or something, you're never going to be in really comfy gear. I think I said once as well, I think there's a correlation between the amount of work someone puts in at the gym and the amount of equipment they have. And it's like a negative correlation. I feel like, you'll see a guy roll up in steel toe caps and like a roofing company hoodie or something, or a high vis, and they'll, outperform everyone in there. So no, I
For
definitely get
sure.
what you're
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
You don't, obviously you need to avoid injury. Some people have like weird running gaits and things that they need to sort of account for, but if you're normally healthy, I don't see why you're in the most comfortable stuff. And there's definitely even um research to prove that those cushion shoes and stuff actually do more damage than good in the long run, because we weren't built to be walking around in things like that. For me personally, I use Nike free runs, and it's basically like a
Mm,
barefoot style shoe. So obviously, when I'm mostly training for martial arts, so if I'm on the mats or if I'm in a taekwondo class, I'm going to be barefoot 90% of the time. So for me, it's about getting that barefoot feeling as much as possible. So
mm.
they're my most worn shoe by far. They're destroyed. They're beaten into the ground. I need to get a new pair, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I mean, you
yeah,
touched on something there. Just very quickly, the side of it that's about, if you're a healthy person, in general, and you don't have any kind of special requirements, you've got no excuse to not, train for real life, because part
yeah,
of it, I think you touched on this earlier, but part of it is also overcoming, it's just another challenge to overcome. Because I mean, already you're lifting the weights or you're running or whatever it is. If you're doing that in jeans and like a shirt, that adds to the challenge. It becomes much more difficult. You get so much more sweaty, let me tell you. I'm
yeah.
I'm walking out of there with like, the biggest pit stains you've ever seen. It's ridiculous. um and but it's just another element of the challenge, something else to overcome, and when you overcome that, the reward is even greater.
No, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I think in regards to equipment, I think that's everything, all the questions I've really got. So if we'll move on to kettlebells. So we spoke about the sneakers. We'll move on to the kettlebells. Something that you've um, infected, I'd say, probably everyone in the realm of possibility that you could. Um, People that you don't like, there's I won't name names, but there's people that I've spoken to who have started kettlebells just because of you, like that you haven't even directly contacted. So you're definitely sort of introducing a lot of people to it, which is a positive thing.
Mm.
So we'll talk about sort of the training schedule. So is it a kettlebell something you use every day?
Yeah, every day. I generally take one rest day a week, and that's usually Sunday. Just because I used to be one of these types that trained every single day. And I have found it's only been recently that I've decided to, have the discipline to take a rest day.
Mm.
And the payoff for that has actually been noticeable. But yeah, kettlebells every day. I mix in some body weight in there, just because again, in the interest of functional strength, that's a really valuable kind of component to a workout. And I occasionally I'll use like resistance bands, because again, just to switch it up, keep things a challenge, keep things different. But I really, I steer clear generally of the dumbbells and the barbells, just because, a kettlebell, you can get everything you need out of a kettlebell.
Mm.
You don't need anything else. But like I say, I add in primarily the body weight, just because it's a very valuable skill to be able to move your own body around, as well as being able to move around, external objects. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it could possibly even be life saving, just being able to lift yourself up.
For
So
sure.
it's definitely something
Yeah. Put yourself
everyone,
on.
yeah, definitely something a lot of people need to be training. And you touched on something as well. You said, oh, kettlebells, they train like with swings and stuff. They train pretty much most of your body. And I remember you said to one of our friends that if there was any exercise that you could recommend, if he was just going to do one exercise every day or every week or whenever he was going to train, that you would recommend them to be kettlebell swings. And I think you said push-ups as well. Now I'm
Yeah.
assuming the push-ups are added in because you don't hit chest as much as the other areas of the body. But has your opinion changed on that? Would you still say it's swings over everything else?
Yeah, it is still swings over everything else. Two-handed swing, that's just such a, I mean, it's effectively a full body exercise. And I mean, I generally say swings and dips. That's Pavel Tsatsouline. I don't know if you know him. That's kind of his recommendation. And in my experience, that really is the two most essential exercises you can do. But if you don't have access to, dip bars, a press up is just as good, and
Yeah.
most people generally find press ups a little bit easier. So that's at least a good place to start. But the beauty of the kettlebell swing is it's a genuinely full body exercise. Your legs are involved, pretty much the whole leg is involved, back is involved, shoulders, arms, it's incredible what it does for your grip strength, and this sort of thing, stability muscles, especially in the shoulders. Yeah, it's an amazing exercise.
No, yeah, definitely for stability, because there's not many things you can do with a barbell where you're sort of controlling that force as it's coming down as
Mm.
well. I know you're supposed
Yeah.
to sort of control it as it comes down as much as possible, but there's not that sort of acceleration as you go down normally with a barbell, and you're moving it away from your body and you're bending different parts of your body as well. So definitely it recruits a lot of different areas.
Yes.
So I think you mentioned earlier the word functional. Now this is funny because I wanted to bring this up and you sent me something yesterday about what is function, what does functional mean, and I think a
Mm.
lot of people sort of group functional in with, if an exercise is functional, it hits multiple movement paths or planes of motion, and um, it normally mirrors a real life or sort of a practical movement that you do in your everyday life or in a sport or something like that. Um, but I can't remember where I read it, but I saw something similar to what you sent me yesterday about how technically every exercise can be seen as functional, because if you're training for a bicep curl competition, then a bicep curl is going to be the most functional thing you can do for that competition,
Mm.
or a bench press competition. And I think me and you have both sort of we've laughed at bicep curls and bench press before, just because it doesn't really have much use, and they seem to be the two main ones that people train at the gym, especially when starting out. So what do you think functional means, and what does functional mean to you?
Well, I mean, just on that, the bicep curl bench press issue. Um, Obviously, I mean, if you are stronger, then you are better off. And whether that strength comes from kettlebell swings or bicep curls, you're still better off. You're better than if you were doing nothing. But generally, I feel that, something like a bicep curl, again, whilst it is useful to have a stronger bicep, if that's very much an isolation exercise. Therefore, you neglect, say, the forearm, you neglect the shoulder, whereas something like a kettlebell swing, that hits, like, that's wrist, that's grip strength, that's forearm, that's bicep, tricep, and shoulder all at once, right? Therefore, there's going to be a fairly what would you say, like the development of all those muscles, they'll kind of develop with each other
I
rather than
see. Yeah.
in isolation from each other, right? Therefore, yeah, I feel, maybe, I don't know if there's any science behind this, but this is just how I kind of view this subject. If you train your muscles to work together at the same time, then you will be, again, better off in real life, because you'll be more used to recruiting multiple muscles at once. Whereas if you're just doing a bicep curl, that is effectively only recruiting one muscle, and that's the bicep. So it's, it's training your body to understand what it feels like to use multiple different muscles and muscle groups at the same time. That's kind of what functional strength means to me.
Okay. Because yeah, I like what you said about them all working together. I think that's a good point, because you can't get just big strong arms just from training arms. You need the full package. No, I definitely agree with that. Do you think that there are movements that are functional for everyone? Do you think that there's because for me, functional to me would be anything to do with jiu-jitsu, anything to do with taekwondo, and just to do with everyday life, things that would make my life easier, or for longevity as well. So do you think, what are those movements for you, and what do you think they are for the general public as well? Like what sort of exercises are we looking at for that?
Well, I'm probably a pretty good example, because I don't do. I mean, I do. I do martial arts, but I haven't been doing them the last few months, just because my classes haven't been on, basically. But I'm very much also looking for those kind of martial arts centric moves. So I mean, that's things like Turkish get up, swings are perfect as well, snatches with the kettlebell. But outside of that, I very much am just a regular guy. Like, I don't do very much heavy lifting. I don't have like a demanding job. I'm a student. I'm a soft London student. So
Yeah.
so I really am just training for I guess the extreme situations. Either that, or what you said, if I'm helping someone move house, move something heavy, whatever it might be, just these kind of random situations you might find yourself in, where it's more useful for you to be strong, or
And I
these
guess
situations where you need strength to survive.
I guess for the mental benefit as well, probably that would be a big thing
That's
for you as well.
that's huge. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But
Yeah.
for the general person, moves that I would say are functional just for everyday life. The swing is number one, just because that builds up, that really strengthens that posterior chain. So that's the spine and the area around the spine. And everyone will benefit from that. I mean, we're sitting at desk chairs, as we are now, at higher levels than humans ever have in history. Human beings were not designed to sit at a desk for 9 hours a day. We're designed to move. We're designed to keep blood flowing through the muscles. And so something like the kettlebell swing can be a kind of corrective for that kind of what would you say, that kind of lifestyle. Because my dad, for example, has a bad back, and that's because he has an office job. And I think that's a very common thing. Therefore, something like the kettlebell swing is a great countermeasure to that, because it really strengthens your back, really strengthens that posterior chain. And so for that reason, it's functional. It genuinely benefits your health. It benefits you in the everyday. It means it's easier. It's little things, easier to stand up and not, twinge your back like that. Little things like that, which when they add up, you look at how much sort of pain that might actually cause you. Really is worth kind of taking that countermeasure against it. Beyond that, I would say, I mean, like I said, swings and dips, that's the core, that's the bedrock of what everybody should be doing. Just because, like I said, the swing doesn't target the chest that much. Therefore, you need to do something to kind of supplement that. And the dip is the best, because it's you're hanging your body weight and moving your body around with your own strength, which, as I've said already, is a very valuable skill to have. And that's valuable if you needed to, again, extreme situations, if you needed to push something off your body, something that falls on you, or if you need to if you're in a in like a kind of fight situation, it's very useful to have that kind of pushing strength, that pushing ability, and that's what you get from the push up or the dip. And obviously the swing supplements, that strengthens the rest of the body. Yeah. So if you can get your hands on a kettlebell, there's a few moves I'd recommend everyone do. So that's the swing. The snatch is great. So that's effectively swinging it over your head, just because that is probably the best exercise you can do to strengthen those little muscles in the shoulder, those stabilizer muscles, which are just as important as the big muscles. It's just as important as the delts, just as important as anything else. Because if you don't have those stabilizer muscles, you can have the biggest shoulders in the world. You can have Arnie's shoulders, and you can still seriously hurt yourself if you don't have those stabilizer muscles, whether it's whatever situation you find yourself in. So that's a great one for that. That is also great cardio. You do 10 minutes of snatches and you will be smoked by the end of it. I did that today and it was brutal. All right. And it's amazing because, everybody that I have trained with, everybody that I've introduced to kettlebells, they have all said without fail that they would much rather do 10 minutes of snatches, whatever, or whatever else, they're feeling that day, than go for a run. Because I love running. I know you do too, but it's not for everyone, because running is seriously, it's difficult, it's tough, and it sucks. You're sweating.
And it takes so long as well. It takes a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it takes a lot of motivation to get up and get those shoes on and get out the door,
Yeah.
Whereas if you can just swing this kettlebell around for 10 minutes, that's a far more, I think it's a far more fun, far more enjoyable, and far more just, I think the benefits are actually better than running, because they strengthen your cardio and they also strengthen your muscles. So that's another great one that people should do. I would also say just get some kind of squat in there, because the kettlebell swing does train legs in a major way, but it's always good to have something that seriously focuses on the legs. And the goblet squat, that's great. So you're holding the kettlebell above you, above the quads like this, up at your chest, and just do some squats like that, because that hits basically the whole leg. And again, it's not an isolation move, because if you hold this kettlebell here for any length of time, biceps are burning, shoulders are burning, back is tense. It's a functional movement for that reason, because it's hitting multiple muscle groups at the same time.
It definitely feels different on your legs as well, having the weight out in front of you rather than
100%,
on your back or on your spine. It makes it feel different. So even if you are doing barbell squats, they're a great thing to supplement them with as well. So
yeah,
I definitely recommend those.
Think about it like this then. So if you're doing a barbell squat over the shoulders, right, the center of mass for that weight is here, right? It's in the middle of your neck, basically, at the top of your back. If you're doing a goblet squat with the kettlebell here, right, the center of mass is here. So not only is that above the legs, so that's hitting the quads more, that's just hitting the whole leg more, you don't have your whole back to support that weight, right? Yeah. You've just got your arms, basically. Your back will be involved because it's pulling back like this, but it's primarily, like I say, it's biceps, it's shoulders, and so again, for that reason, it's just a far more effective exercise for getting that real strength.
Yeah. Because it's not often it's not often you'll be sort of holding something on your shoulders. Really, you're more likely to think about it like that. If you're walking up the stairs holding a box, you're not going to have it, on your back like a snail. You're going to have it out in front of you as if you're doing a goblet squat. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. Another great one I would recommend on that subject actually is the suitcase carry. So it's similar to a farmer's carry, except you've only got weight loaded on one side. Because a farmer's carry is great, so that's weight loaded on both sides. You carry that weight around for whatever, half a mile maybe. But that doesn't recruit as many muscles. It sounds strange. It's kind of counterintuitive that if you take less weight, it's actually recruiting more muscles. But that farmer's carry, that's a shoulder exercise. The lats are kind of activated, and it's a leg exercise. Whereas the suitcase carry, so that's again weight loaded on one side, holding it in one hand, that recruits this whole side, right? This whole, the whole of your core on this side is tense and tight, because it needs to pull that up,
even you out,
even you out, keep you stable. And again, it's recruiting those stabilizer muscles, those little ones that you just can't train with dumbbells or barbells. And so again, you take that weight in your hand, you walk half a mile, and you are smoked by the end of that. You are done. But that's a huge core workout. You can forget about the ab crunches and that sort of thing. Do that, and you will get a six pack. I can tell you that. That's another great one. And again, very functional, because you will definitely find situations in your life where you're carrying something on one side, whether that's something as simple as, you know, taking your shopping home, right, from like your groceries home, because, you know, like I say, I'm a student, so I have to do a lot of like grocery shopping and that sort of thing, and my local supermarket is it's about 2 miles away. And so when I'm lugging that heavy bag full of like it's milk, eggs, and steak, basically,
Yeah.
when I'm lugging that 2 miles, I'm seriously grateful that I've trained the muscles that are involved in that. Because, you know, I've spoken to my housemates before at my uni, and they always say they have to, you know, they have to stop every 10 meters, whatever it is, and take a rest. And I'm just like,
Weak.
I've been
Get
doing
the
my suitcase
kettlebells out.
carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing my suitcase carry, so I'm fine.
I was just going to say, I didn't actually know it was the suitcase carry. I didn't actually, I thought it was just the farmer's carry of one hand. Or was it, what did you say it was again? It was a briefcase or suitcase?
No, no, it's suitcase, and that, I mean,
Suitcase.
that's another situation where you might use that strength as if you're lugging a heavy suitcase through the airport. It's just random situations like that where you know, you're grateful that you know, put in the hours, you know, in the gym, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any more
Yeah.
you can think of?
Um, Yeah, I mean the overhead press, that is always good. The clean and press ideally, but you know, the clean, that's a whole, that's the one-handed swing and then clean, and that's a whole other thing. But you know, just pressing a weight over your head, that's just generally good advice. You know, because that's very useful strength. Whether that's going to be pushing something that's fallen onto you, off of you, or pushing somebody off of you, or whatever it is, that pushing strength, the ability to move weight, you know, above your head and you know, using a pushing motion. It's a very valuable skill to have. And again, you know, the beauty of kettlebells is because of, you know, you imagine a dumbbell press overhead, right?
Yeah.
The center of mass of that dumbbell is in the middle of your hand here. So when you press that over your head and you hold it over your head, that's your, you know, your whole arm is below that. It's supporting it, it's stabilizing it. And as difficult as that might be, it doesn't compare to the kettlebell overhead press. Because with the kettlebell, you've got it loaded like this. The center of mass is here, right? It's behind, it's on your wrist effectively, which means when you press it over your head, that weight isn't just supported by your arm, it's pulling backwards, right? And that really recruits those, you know, those, again, stabilizer muscles. I'm going to say that phrase a lot today, but it's true. You know, it really recruits those stabilizer muscles in the shoulder, which again are very valuable if you don't want to injure yourself. And it involves, again, it's forearm, it's grip strength, it's, you know, all the useful stuff that you really are going to use in real life, whether it's day to day or whether it's in extreme situations, you will use those skills.
Yeah. And also, when you're doing the clean and press, you're almost rotating it because you clean it up
Mhm.
to in front of you and then you rotate it upwards. So it are the
Yeah.
benefits of doing it instead of just because with a just regular shoulder press with a dumbbell, it's just you know, a straight line. But for the kettlebell, it's up. It's a almost a rotation up as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I do really recommend. I'll add one. I think you mentioned it earlier, but the Turkish get up. That's one that I've been. That's probably the one
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
doing most since I got my kettlebell, and
Yeah, that's huge.
just for jujitsu in itself, but for everyday life. Because um, I think you explain it to me first off, but I'll try my best and feel free to interject. But at every point of that movement, the weight is at a different angle in comparison to your body. So obviously
Mm.
it starts off in front of you, then it's slightly up diagonally, then it's right above your head, and there's not a single moment of rest in that whole exercise. And I remember when we
Yeah.
trained together, we trained with quite a big group a few weeks ago, and we did a little extra challenge added on. We did a sit through, I believe, on one of the steps, sort of closest to the ground, and we did. Do you remember we did like the shoulder press at each sort of stage as well?
At each point, yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh
was
my God.
killer,
Yeah.
killer. And then I think we ended with like
That killed.
yeah, 5 like chest presses at the end or something like of each rep. So it was quite a lot, and you know, it was good. The rest of the guys
Yeah.
managed to
That was sad.
keep up as well. That was savage. And
Yeah. No, that was
another
a
thing that I really enjoyed was last time we trained together. We started with you know, like what was it? We started with one-handed swings, then we added on each
yeah.
set. We sort of just added on a new movement, which is something that I
Yeah.
haven't tried before. But yeah, keep it fresh,
Mm.
keep it interesting. I find that I look
Yeah.
forward to kettlebells a lot more You can play around a lot more with them, as opposed to just sort of doing the same few exercises for each muscle group. Like today, I was doing you'll have to correct me on the name, but the Pat McNamara, through the leg, catch it at one side, through the leg. I was doing those today as well. I did some man makers and then those. So there's a lot of different fun ways you can break it down. But yeah, anything? Do you have anything else you want to add on the kettlebells before we move on to the carnivore diet itself?
Just touching on what you just said there. Like I said, kettlebells, I really do think that, everybody that I have trained with and everybody that I've spoken to about it, everybody says it's more fun. It's more fun than running. It's more fun than getting into the gym and doing half a dozen deadlifts, whatever it is. It's just more fun. And I think that's because there is the kind of, it's almost like a rhythmic factor to kettlebells. If you're doing a swing, again, not only is it the full body, but there's a lot of momentum there,
Yeah.
And it's a lot more dynamic than something like a bench press, for example, where you're laying there and you're just up and down, up and down.
There's no acceleration.
It's much more,
there's no acceleration.
Yeah.
With the swings. It's there's a lot of force behind it. There's a lot of explosiveness, and it just makes it more fun. Yeah.
No, it's just so much more enjoyable, I find. And I really would, I think it's criminal how unknown is a bit of an overstatement, but people don't use kettlebells. You see these, gym bros, whether it's like, you're going into the gym at 16 years old, you're thinking you're going to get after it, or, whether it's older types, nobody seems to go for kettlebells. I think, you and I have talked about this before. I think most people, they see them and they group them in with like Zumba and yoga and that sort of thing.
I always used to think like yoga mums use that. Yeah. They're for like the, the old ladies and stuff like that, because they're the only people I ever really saw using them. I remember I saw one person doing swings and I thought, why, how is he getting a pump from doing that? Because it's momentum. So he's not curling it and he's not pressing it over his head. So how is he gaining muscle? But I think a lot of it, they're onto something. They got a gold mine going on, and I think you've definitely tapped into it. No, it is strange. I think what do you think the reason is for people not using them? Because there are a lot of role models now who, you think of the likes of Joe Rogan. He's literally got his own like monkey head or gorilla head ones, and there's a lot of people that speak about them now. So why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't use them?
I think it's a few reasons. I think one reason is definitely what we just touched on, and that is what people associate it with. Because I'm the same. I definitely associate, I looked at somebody doing kettlebell swings and I thought, like, what is that doing? Really, what is that doing? What muscles is that strengthening? But I shouldn't have been so ignorant, because they seriously are. They're like magic. They're a game changer. So I think that's one reason. I wouldn't say it's a stigma, but there is a certain, I don't know, there's a certain something about them that puts like gym bros off of them.
Yeah.
I think it's also because, with those really functional kettlebell movements, whether it's the swing, whether it's the, the snatch, whatever it is, Turkish get up, that's not putting peaks on biceps. That's not your chest isn't, puffing up after that. And that's because they're not isolation moves, and they're not, the aim of them is not to strengthen that one muscle and make it huge. I think it was Pat Mack, who is a huge influence on me. Pat Mack said, there's 3 reasons somebody should do a bicep curl. One is if you're a professional bodybuilder, it's your job to look huge. It's your job
like that.
Yeah. 2, you're recovering from an injury, which certainly fair enough. 3, you got no idea what you're doing. And I like that, because that's true. And it is because those kettlebell moves, you don't get that immediate feedback from them. You'll get puffed out, you'll get sweaty, but you're not going to see that pump in the bicep. Not really. Not in the same way as when you do a curl. I would say those are the main reasons, I'd say. I think it's also partly because, until recently, they didn't get a lot of media coverage. You know, you'd look at like the Schwarzeneggers, you'd look at, you know, professional bodybuilding scene, and it's deadlift, it's bench press, it's bicep curls. You know, it's the standard moves that everybody, even people who don't go to the gym, it's the standard moves that everybody knows, right?
Yeah, that's
And
what I was going to
kettlebells,
say. You never saw, you know, the greats, the Arnolds. You never saw them doing kettlebells, but obviously that's because they were bodybuilders, so they didn't really. It wasn't
their
really
job.
something that they needed. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, that's, you touched on it, because I mean, the reason that I got into kettlebells in the first place was listening to Joe Rogan talk about them. And, you know, I thought, you know, this guy is a professional, you know, he's been in the industry, he's been in the martial arts industry for his whole life. There's got to be something to it, you know?
yeah,
And I'm glad, you know, I'm glad I did start, because it's been, like I say, it's a game changer. And I'm glad that they're getting a bit more coverage these days. I'm glad they're getting a little bit more popularity. Because again, like I say, everybody who I've introduced them to has said that it's so much more enjoyable than any other type of training. And so I think there is, you know, it's a great thing that they're getting more popular, because I think that it will get more people into fitness, if nothing else, and that can only be a good thing.
yeah. If anything, it's almost like another pathway. It's another pathway, if, you know, because we have friends who didn't work out or don't really work out, and it's almost like their gateway into, you know,
A
looking at
gateway
life
drug.
yeah, a gateway drug almost. Yeah. That does bring up a good point, because we spoke about Pat Mac and Joe Rogan. Who do you sort of, where do you get these ideas from? You came to me and said, let's do some man makers and, you know, all these other ones. And I remember when you first said you were starting kettlebells, you know, you were watching videos and learning about them and stuff. So who did you go to? Who do you base your training off?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, like I said, Joe Rogan, I heard about kettlebells from him. Just, I heard what they were, I heard that he used them, and that got me thinking, like, hey, maybe there's something to that. You know, maybe that's worth looking into. I'm also a huge fan of Jocko Willink, and he's big on kettlebells, and he's also huge. So
Yeah.
I thought, no, there must be something to it then. And it's just kind of through, I mean, other than that, you know, I picked up, you know, I bought a set of kettlebells. And I did, you know, I learned the basics. I learned the swing, I learned the squat, I learned the clean, I learned the press, etc. Just from like YouTube, just from looking it up, looking at the form, you know, literally Googling, you know, kettlebell snatch form. You know, it really is as straightforward as that. Anyone can do it. You know, man makers specifically, I seriously, I'm annoyed that I can't remember his name, but I discovered that through the Athlean X guy. I don't know if you know Athlean
Yeah,
X, but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I saw it on, I think it was on one of his pages, one of his, like, it might have been his Instagram or something. But I saw that and I thought that looks like a killer.
No.
Um,
Yeah, Athlete and
and
X,
I think,
he's one of those, he's one of the only you know, traditional fitness YouTubers that I
yeah,
sort of respect and like, because he knows his
yeah, I
stuff. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's good.
And from there, you know, really the beauty of another, you know, great thing about kettlebells is it's just so easy to chain the moves together, because, you know, it's all about swinging, it's all about moving it around your body, through the legs, over the head. And it's very easy to chain those things together. I mean, I've got a couple of things up on my Instagram where it's just me literally just like freestyling with a kettlebell, you know, whether that's like swinging it between the legs in a figure eight, up into a snatch over the head, down into a, you know, a one-handed swing, which I then flip, you know, into the other hand. Um, when you learn those basic moves, when you get them down to a science and you get the form perfect, it becomes very easy to just invent your own, you know, circuits, your own workouts. And that's another great thing about them, because there's nothing else there's no other type of equipment that you can do that with.
Hmm. No, that is great. Yeah, no, that's something I've been experimenting with, especially today,
Mm.
doing those through the leg figure of eights or
Yeah,
whatever they
killer.
are. Just adding up little things, they accumulate, and then you start to, you know, make your own sort of routines as well. No, that's
Absolutely.
great. Yeah, no, that's good. Hopefully you'll keep us updated on any new ones you learn. So
Yeah, I certainly will. Yeah.
yeah. So
The last thing I would say,
sorry.
sorry, very
Yeah.
quick. Last thing I will say on this is, you know, I've recommended to our friends, for example, that, you know, if they've got very little gym experience, starting with a 12 kg kettlebell, that's a very good place to start, because that allows you, that's light enough to allow you to get the form correct for each of these moves. Because I mean, you know, it can be easy to injure yourself with kettlebells, because you imagine it's this thing that's, you know, the center of mass is all weird and you're moving it above your head and swinging it around. you know, if you stumble into it and you just, you know, you're not careful enough, it can be very easy to injure yourself. So a 12 is, it's light enough to get it right, and it's heavy enough to present a challenge, right? I mean, if you've got a bit of gym experience, then a 16 is definitely what you should go for. And from there, you just work your way up. I mean, I'm currently looking at a 28 kilogram. That's going to be my next, you know, my next one up, because I can do everything with a 24 very easily and with good form. Yeah. So start low, get it right, and then think about, you know, moving up in the weight. And you'll find that it's far more rewarding doing it that way.
Definitely, because you can get into the trap where you're ego lifting.
Yes.
I can overhead press, you know, 25 kg dumbbells. So I need to get a 25 kg kettlebell. You'll injure yourself definitely. You know, that was the kind of level that I was at. You know, for barbell exercises, you know, pretty strong, decently strong. But I've started with a 16, and that's been more than enough for me to get started.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend
Yeah. But
start. Yeah.
that's one other thing with kettlebells is that desire to ego lift will disappear, because you
Mm.
cannot ego lift with kettlebells. It doesn't work. You know,
Yeah.
in the gym, you can load up a deadlift at maybe a little bit more than you think you should do, and you can probably pull it off, you know, but you'll screw your back for the next week, and you'll bust up your legs, whatever it is, you know. But ego lifting does not exist in the realm of kettlebells.
No, there's no just powering through it. You need to have the technique down. It's all technique.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've touched on the equipment, the sneakers. We touched on kettlebells. So we'll move on to the last part, the carnivore diet. This I thought you were crazy when you first started this. I think I've said a few times like you're going to end up hurting yourself. But where did you hear about this, and what made you want to do it?
I think, yeah, originally I heard about this through, so I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, and he talked on Joe Rogan about doing this just all meat diet. And when I first heard it, I thought that is the most mental thing I've ever heard, you know? But, you know, he talked about how his daughter was the person who introduced him to it, because she turned to that sort of that way of eating because she had a lot of health problems. This is Michaela Peterson. And she said that, you know, she had like arthritis, she had depression, she had all these different health problems, and this style of eating cleared most of them up. And I heard that and I thought, that has got to be nonsense, that can't
Yeah.
be right, surely.
Yeah.
um and I mean, at the time I was doing keto, which is obviously far more well known, far more popular, and, you know, an extremely good way of eating. I'll definitely say that. But I found the problem with keto for me was I still had those cravings. I had those cravings for carbs. For me, it's like pastries, biscuits, and this sort of thing. Like, I'm not even huge into like chocolate and other sorts of sugars and that sort of thing, but it's just it's that bakery food and ice cream that's huge. And I still most days had cravings for those sorts of foods, and that's a really, I mean, you know, you get through it, but it's not really a pleasant thing to have to put up with.
Hmm.
And so I thought, you know, I mean, again, I'm at uni, I'm buying my own food, I'm cooking for myself. I thought, what is the harm in giving this ridiculous diet a try for 2 weeks? You know, so I finished up the last of my keto food. I finished up my kale and my spinach, which I laugh at now, which I, you know, it sounds condescending, but, you know, I finished up, you know, the last of that stuff, and I went to Tesco's and I bought some steak, I bought some mince, chicken, eggs, you know, some butter, dairy, you know, milk, that sort of thing. And I was carrying those bags home, and I thought, am I losing it? Like, have I made a huge mistake here? Am I going to really hurt myself doing this? But, you know, I got it home, and, you know, that night I think I had 2 ribeye steaks that night. That first night I did the carnivore diet. And I remember thinking, like, you know, I love steak and that was an enjoyable meal, but I don't know if I can do this every day. Um, but, you know, next day, it was, you know, eggs for breakfast, eggs and bacon for breakfast. And, you know, I love that food. So that worked. That was fine. Um, and, you know, from there, it was, like I say, 2 weeks I did it. And by the end of that 2 weeks, I thought, this is a game changer. Like, this is seriously, like, it's bizarre what a difference it made, because it
Yeah.
shouldn't, you know, it shouldn't, by all like logic, it shouldn't do what it does. But seriously, I was sleeping better. I was able to, I was recovering more quickly. I was able to lift heavier. It sounds too good to be true. It
So
sounds like some kind of
that was at the 2 week mark, yeah.
2 week.
2 week mark.
Yeah,
You were sleeping better, better recovery.
yeah,
I
yeah,
assume because it's a form of the keto diet. So
yeah.
I assume you weren't crashing as much because you weren't having carbs and
No,
sugar. So
that was
that
huge. Yeah, those energy
wow.
levels, that was a huge one. Because for that first 2 weeks, I drink coffee now, but I did avoid caffeine and that sort of thing. I stuck to it. It was literally just water and animal products basically.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing else, and salt. That was the seasoning that I used. Um,
Do you have
but I,
any sorry, do you have any nuts or any fruit at
no,
all, or anything else? Because I know I've seen GSP is doing the carnivore
yeah,
and he has, nuts and berries and stuff. So there's obviously different
mm,
levels to it, but you seem like you're pretty
yeah,
hardcore on it. So you're just eggs and
yeah.
meat pretty
So
much.
I did pure carnivore for those first 2 weeks. So I did have, when I was doing keto, I did have nuts, not so much berries because obviously there's sugar in those, but a lot of avocado, olives, that sort of thing. But I, finished those up when I finished my keto diet, and I didn't do anything other than animal products for those 2 weeks. And like I said, it was a game changer. It was insane the difference it made. Because I thought I would feel in some way sluggish or maybe a little bit like greasy and gross, eating a lot of like really fatty, like juicy, like meat.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I thought my skin would get spotty and that sort of thing just because I was eating so much like fat. But it just didn't happen. My skin got better. My hair, my hair and nails, that was a really weird one. They just maybe, I mean, it's entirely possible it was placebo. But there's just my whole body felt better. My
Oh
mental
wow.
health felt better. I was, like I said, sleeping better. And again, it sounds absolutely like some kind of scam. It sounds like a miracle cure that some snake oil salesman would try to sell. I really can't stress just what a difference it made. So after, I stuck on it after those 2 weeks because I thought, well, I'm really enjoying this. So I see no reason to stop. And well, the big one actually was those cravings went away, which was really weird because you would think by cutting out even more from your diet, you would think you'd crave what you're not having even more. You'd crave that chocolate, you'd crave that hit of sugar. But those cravings, they disappeared. And I think the reason for that, and other people have said this as well, the reason for that is the way you eat on the carnivore diet, it always fills you up. You're always full by the end of your meal.
Yeah.
And you stay full for ages afterwards. Whereas, keto, I'm sure you can achieve that. But if you're eating a lot of like kale and like veg and that sort of thing, I just don't feel you can achieve that same level of satiety and it won't last for as long. And so I think, like I say, a reason that those cravings disappeared literally in a matter of days is because I was satiated all the time. Not over full, not bloated. I just felt I don't need to eat anymore. Therefore, I'm not craving pastry and biscuits and chocolate and ice cream where I was before. And I think, again, that's probably because I wasn't actually filling myself up on keto. So, hey, maybe it was my fault. But still, the carnivore diet, that completely, got rid of that issue. So yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I stuck on it after those 2 weeks, and I have been doing it. I've been doing it on and off for the last, what will it have been, 7 months, 7.5 months, because I'm back and forth from uni, and it's more difficult to eat in that way when I'm at home, which is where I am now. Although I do tend to stick to it. I mean, today I've been pure carnivore today because I had eggs and bacon for breakfast, and I had 2 steaks for dinner, and it was
Wow.
tremendous.
He's a man. He's a real man. It's
Yeah,
crazy to see when you post pictures of your breakfast and it's like 8 burgers. It's just wow.
yeah,
I don't know if I could do that personally, but
yeah. Well,
that is amazing.
one other thing this diet has taught me is, you know, it might sound silly, but there's no reason to restrict what you eat to different times of the day. I'll eat like a 12 egg omelet for, at 8 o'clock at night. And maybe that's more normal than eating 8 burgers for breakfast.
Yeah,
But,
that is.
you really get used to just eating, you know, you look in the, like, because I don't plan what I'm going to eat during the day. I look in the fridge and I think, I'll have that today. You know, I'll have a chicken breast at 9 in the morning. And,
So
you know,
you're effectively doing intuitive eating, then. That's what you're telling me.
intuitive eating.
That's what
You really got
it
to bust
sounds
out
like to
that
me.
phrase.
That's what it sounds like to me. If you just look in the fridge and eat what you want.
Sure, you can
Do you
call it
have
that. I mean, I
a
do.
do you have a goal that you need to hit? Do you have a calorie goal or a protein goal or?
I do. Yeah, I tend to shoot for about 3,000 calories a day and about 200 grams of protein, and then you know the rest is fat.
Yeah.
And that's just because, you know, I'm about 180 pounds. You know, you should be eating a gram of protein per pound of body fat every day. More if you're working out, and obviously I work out quite a bit. And those kettlebells, you know, you need to fuel that seriously, because it's you know, it's cardio as much as it is strength training. So you seriously need to fuel that. So I'm looking at maybe 3,000 calories a day, which on this diet really it's not that much food really. Because you imagine, you know, meat is very calorie dense because there's a lot of fat in there. Fat is 9 calories per gram. So, you know, it's much easier to get that many calories on this diet as opposed to something like maybe keto. So yeah, and I use a calorie counting app just because it makes everything easier. I can't remember what it's even called. I think it's called Food Noms. That's the one I use.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but that's just been the one that I found that's had the most. It's just the most kind of bare bones, like easy to use one. I tried that My Fitness Pal for a while.
I had that
I just didn't
before.
like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, I do have goals. I do. You know, I shoot to like eat as much as I said, because you know it is at the end of the day, it's important to get what you need, and you know, counting those calories makes that easier.
No, I definitely agree. Is there, have you done your research in terms of longevity with having that? Is this something that you're going to be doing for your whole life, or is it something that people generally, you know, come in and out of? You know, are you planning on doing this for the rest of your life, basically?
Well, it's certainly something I plan on continuing for the foreseeable future, definitely at least until I leave university. So that's the next couple of years. But you know, in terms of longevity, there's not that many examples of people doing this diet for extended periods of time. I mean, a guy I'm a huge fan of, Sean Baker, he's been doing it for several years now. He's one of the main proponents of this diet. He's been doing it for several years, and he's a monster. He's jacked. He's huge. And by all accounts, very healthy. You know, he gets his blood work done. And you know, his blood lipid levels and that sort of thing are all very normal, you know, very healthy, within a healthy range. Because you know, I bet you can imagine people all the time. They ask me, you know, aren't you worried you're going to have a heart attack? Aren't you worried you're going to, you know, whatever it is, too much cholesterol, this sort of thing. And generally, the reason people get funny about this diet is because there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is you actually need to eat, what you should eat, and what's healthy and what isn't. Because, for example, you know, for a long time, margarine and vegetable oils were promoted as healthy alternatives to animal fats, you know, butter and lard and that sort of thing. And there's been there's a wealth of research that shows, you know, now that those like industrial, like seed and vegetable oils, they are possibly the worst food for you in existence. They are terrible for you. The human digestive system is not built to process and digest, you know, industrially produced seed oils. You know, humans, for the millions of years of human existence, we've been eating meat, and we haven't been eating margarine. And so, you know, that and those oils, they cause a lot of inflammation in the gut, which can lead to all sorts of other health problems. That can lead to, you know, it's amazing. The gut health of your gut has such a wide ranging and far reaching impact on your health overall. I mean, it affects your dopamine and serotonin levels, you know, those being the happy chemicals. You know, if you have a really unhealthy gut, then it's likely you will have all sorts of mental health problems, just because they have such an impact on, you know, those chemicals. Sorry, I've gone off on a huge tangent here.
No, carry on. No, it's really interesting. Carry on.
Yeah, no, but anyway, my point was going to be, I certainly plan on eating in Paul Saladino, who's another carnivore diet proponent. He calls it a species appropriate diet. So that's the diet that the human body has, eaten for the last, for the however many millions of years that we've existed for. And that, because that just seems to be the sensible thing to do. Because if your body isn't, your body isn't built to process a lot of the foods that we eat in the modern world. It's not built to process refined carbs. It's not built to process sugar, seed oils, whatever it is, generally the foods that taste the best, unfortunately. Because and they cause, like I say, all sorts of wide-ranging health problems, from inflammation to these seed oils. They're carcinogens. They raise your risk of cancer. And that's another one. That's another line that gets touted, is red meat causes cancer. And the research that people are referring to when they talk about that is really poor. You really should look into these things, because you will find that a lot of the narratives around food, and I'm starting to sound a little bit like a little bit Alex Jones, but the narratives
theory.
around the narratives around food, a lot of them exist to well, either they are just wrong, or they exist to prop up certain industries, certain businesses. I mean, the food pyramid in America was invented by the Agricultural Committee. What has the Agricultural Committee got to do with diet? And you've got to think there's a vested interest there in selling more, whatever it is, wheat and vegetables and that sort of thing, all things that aren't necessarily great for you. Anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, you finish your point, and then I'll ask another question. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so on the point of longevity, it seems to me that there is, very good evidence to suggest that eating in a species appropriate way, whatever form that may take, whether it is the carnivore diet or something closer to paleo, maybe introducing some berries and some avocado, that kind of thing, fairly inoffensive plant foods, or whether it's just sticking purely to the animal products, which is what I'm doing at the moment. I eat a lot of like liver, that sort of thing. That's where I get a lot of my minerals and vitamins from, because that is, is important. But I certainly plan on sticking to this way of eating for at least the foreseeable future, and I'll see how I go.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm sure you'll keep us updated. You quoted someone about having a species specific diet. So do you believe, and do other people believe, who are advocates of the carnivore diet, do they believe that there is a place for vegetable at all, or fruit or nut, or is there, have you done research into reasons why they don't fit into that diet?
Yeah, well, I mean, it varies on from person to person, because somebody like Sean Baker, who I mentioned already, he literally just eats like steak and eggs, and that's pretty much it. Whereas somebody like Paul Saladino, who was the guy who said about a species appropriate diet, he, in his recommendations to people, he does say maybe include some, again, avocado, olives are good, berries, like a few nuts, not too many, because nuts can be like inflammatory. There's a reason that nut allergies are so common. Like I say, it varies from person to person, because there certainly is a place for certain plant foods. There certainly is. It would be stupid to say that all plant foods are, either unhealthy or, whatever it is, because you get carnivore people who are just as bad as like vegans. They're just as tribal and religious about the diet as vegans are. And they're as wrong as vegans, because there is, people's bodies are built so differently that there is no one size fits all solution. There is no one perfect, diet that would fit everybody. And so, I mean, like, look at the way you and I eat. You eat on a pretty much a pescatarian diet, and that works perfectly for you. I eat on a carnivore diet, and that works perfectly for me.
But here we are. We can have an adult conversation about it and agree that, our bodies are different. The carnivore diet may well work for me, but it's nothing against the pescatarian or vegan. It's just that,
of course,
you're used to eating like you are. I'm used to eating like I am. I'm definitely like the healthiest I've ever been. The leanest I've ever been.
Yeah.
So I don't see any
And
reason
so am
with,
I.
yeah. So it's just,
Yeah.
what are we going to do about it? We can't, we
Yeah.
need to differentiate somehow, but it's just
Yeah.
like, there can be more than one right answer.
Yeah. No, that
And I
certainly can
think,
be.
especially in the health and fitness industry, there always seems to be like a blanket sort of, a blanket prescription to people that is
Yeah.
given to people, or a one size fits all kind of approach. They just say, oh, you need to just don't eat carbs and you'll be fine, or don't eat
Yeah.
red meat and you'll be
No,
fine. And it's,
that's
yeah.
really wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, on that point, actually, very recently I've been eating honey, which, some, like Paul Saladino, for example, he says that that's counts as an animal product. Basically, it's not a plant. So that's fine. That's appropriate for the carnivore diet. And I have found that it hasn't made a difference in either direction. It hasn't made me feel better. It hasn't made me feel worse. And it is nice just to have that little. I generally have a little bit of honey like at the end of the day. So I'm in ketosis for most of the day, so no carbs. But end of the day, little spoonful of honey, just as like a treat, basically.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice. It is nice to have that little bit of variation in there. As much as I do enjoy, the steak and the eggs and the chicken every day, and I really do enjoy it. It is nice to have that little, that little treat in there once in a while.
Yeah, no, you definitely got to break it up like that, because it's about being able to do it for a long amount of time as well. If you start limiting yourself too much, if you say, oh, no carbs, no no fruit, no veg, and you need to get this certain amount of calories, then you're never going to do that for a long time, unless you're some kind of superhuman who has amazing willpower. You're never going to be able to keep that up. So it's about having little treats and little things that you're allowed along the way, I think, is a good balance to have, and it will probably help you in the long run, to keep it up for a longer amount of time.
And as you well know, I will take a cheat day every now and then. And when I take a cheat day, I take a cheat day.
We take cheat days, don't we? We know how to take a cheat day. Yeah,
we certainly do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's because somebody like Jordan Peterson, for example, he said that the moment he eats something that isn't meat, he has like serious problems. He can't sleep at night. He feels anxiety, depression, all manner of things, which I absolutely believe is the case. I believe that he is telling the truth on that. I fortunately haven't had as severe an experience as he has. And so I can, every now and then, every few weeks, every few months, whenever it is, I can take a cheat day. I can eat a pizza. I'm not, religious about this diet. I'm not completely every day without fail committed to it. And that is because I do have, the privilege of not having these terrible health problems that other people who have gone to this diet as a solution have, I suppose one other point I did want to make on this subject was, people shouldn't be under the impression that there is any food that is perfect for you. There is no food that is perfectly healthy, and that applies to vegetables as much as it does anything else. Because people assume that if something is green, and if something is if they've been told that this thing is a superfood, if it's insanely healthy, that it is there's nothing wrong with it. But with a lot of vegetables, especially leafy greens, kale and spinach and that sort of thing, there's a lot in there that is genuinely harmful. And people don't talk about that because it's not fashionable to talk about that. But you imagine and again we're going off on a tangent, but you imagine a plant. Not that a plant is obviously conscious in any way, but evolutionarily speaking, there is no benefit to a plant in you eating a plant's leaves, because that plant relies on those leaves for photosynthesis. That's how it eats. That's how it survives. That's how it gets its energy.
Yeah.
Therefore, a plant is rooted to the ground. An animal, it can run away, it can fight you with teeth, and it can fight you with claws. But a plant is rooted to the ground, and it can't defend you in that very physical way. Therefore, plants, through evolution across millions of years, have developed defense mechanisms in the form of chemicals, which you would expect, because if you went out into the woods and you tried eating any of the plants just off the floor, if you did that for an hour, you would be very unwell.
Yeah,
you'd be very ill, and that's because something like in the order of 98%, something like that, of plant foods are inedible, because the human body is not built to process them, because they contain these chemicals that act as defense mechanisms to deter animals like
to
us
stop us from it. Yeah, no, makes
it makes
sense.
perfect
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
yeah,
And the same, be under no illusion that the same is true for the plants that that are stacking the shelves on the supermarkets. They're not perfect foods. They're not superfoods. They're not amazing for you. They have
yeah,
negatives, and for some people, those negatives are tolerable. For yourself, I imagine that's the case.
yeah,
But for other people, like again, the Jordan Petersons, they cause inflammation of the gut, which then leads to mental and physical health problems. um, because again, we're all built so differently. You cannot just say that vegetables are healthy for everyone. You can't just say leafy greens are what you should be eating if you want to lose weight and get healthy, because it's just not true, you know.
mm.
um,
Yeah, no,
which is
people
why
definitely think about greens and stuff. They think they can just eat as much as they want. I think that's definitely what the media's been feeding people as well, is, eat vegetables, and it's, you need to understand that everything is about balance. Every single food,
yes,
meat, fish, vegetables, everything's about balance. Sugar, even. I was under the impression that it wasn't the same for fruit, because their evolution was to have the berries on the fruit, and then as animals, pick them up and they ate them and move them around, they would be able to repopulate and reproduce. So is that sort of the chemicals that are in vegetables that you're talking about, does that cover fruit as well, or is that something that you're unaware of?
no, what you said is exactly right, because the way that fruit bearing plants reproduce is spot on. An animal will eat the fruit which contains the seeds. As we all know, that's what defines a fruit, is if it has seeds. um, it will then, it will excrete that food elsewhere, and the seeds will grow. And like you say, that's how they reproduce. And so that's why you will see the GSPs. They will eat, berries and that sort of thing. Certain fruits, which are, they don't contain these inflammatory chemicals, because they, again, want to be eaten. Because it's evolutionarily beneficial for the plant to have those berries or whatever it is be eaten. And that's also why fruit tastes sweet. That's why we're attracted to sugar. That's why we're attracted to sweet foods, is because that's an incentive to eat those foods. And so it's a kind of, it's very much a reciprocal kind of relationship between the plant and the animal, because the plant is allowed to reproduce, it gets its seeds moved elsewhere, and the animal gets a nice
We get
sweet
to
treat
enjoy
as
it.
well.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
that, that, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's
yeah,
really,
there's something
really,
beautiful about that.
yeah, it really is. It really does make you question the existence of God. How
Oh yeah,
it's
wow, we're getting into
almost
that already.
it's almost, maybe not today, maybe we're probably running low
That's
on
one
time for
factor.
that. We'll
Yeah.
need a good, like, 6 hour session
Oh yeah.
to get through that. But I haven't got any more questions. I don't know if there's anything else you want to leave it on or discuss, or anything else you want to add in before we wrap it
I
up.
suppose just a closing remark on the carnivore diet. It would be, I'm not, obviously I'm not a doctor or anything, so I wouldn't recommend this diet without a lot of qualifiers, because as we've talked about, everybody's different, everybody's built differently, and everybody will react to different foods in different ways. And so, if you want to give it a try, I would say 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a great, that's a long enough time to get a feel for the diet. That's a long enough time for your body to adapt to the diet. But it's a short enough time to not do not do yourself any harm, really. Because people are very skeptical of this diet, but I would say just give it a try, see how it makes you feel. Because you can, make no mistake, you can get everything you need from this diet. You can get you can get every macronutrient, every micronutrient. You can get everything from this. Admittedly, that may require you to eat foods that other people might raise their eyebrows at. Whether that's, I mean, for me, that's raw beef liver. That's a big one. That's one
Oh
that makes
man,
people feel real weird.
yeah,
But, it's just it. You do what you do, and you need to learn your body and learn what works for you. Because if you do that, you will find that seriously your life improves drastically. If you eat in a way that is appropriate for your body, you will feel so much better. You'll wake up stronger. You'll wake up more clear-headed throughout the day. You'll have more energy. You'll feel better in every way. And that's probably all I've got to say.
yeah.
It's a
Well,
great diet. Don't listen to the media. Don't listen to what they tell you.
yeah, definitely. The through line is to do your own research. I'd say we could both agree on is
Yeah,
don't just get told something and just take it as a fact. Do your own
yeah, that's
research. We're,
absolutely right.
we're not calling people liars, but different things work for different people. So if you hadn't come across Jordan Peterson and the issues that he was having, or his daughter, or other people, you wouldn't have even thought to try it. And this could potentially be saving your life. Like if
Maybe.
you weren't doing it, you could have certain issues or be not as healthy as you are now. So definitely knowledge is key.
Mm.
But don't just jump into it. Obviously, you said
Yeah.
do the couple weeks. I'm probably going to try it at some point. It's something that I
Mm.
definitely want to tick off, just to cover all bases and make sure I'm definitely doing what feels best for me.
Mm.
So you definitely convinced me there, but there seemed to be a lot of benefits, and I think that was a really well explained and sort of good overview without being totally biased towards the carnivore diet. So yeah, I think that's everything we have time for today. Obviously, me and you, we could talk for hours about this stuff. I'm sure you'll be on here again if you're up for that.
Yeah, I love that.
Just for a part two, we've covered sort of everything in quite a general sense, so we can jump into
Mm.
some more detailed things, or what people want to see the most, basically. We'll sort of base it off that. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming on. It's
Yeah,
been
thank
fun.
you.
It's been really interesting, and I hope
That's really good.
yeah, I hope everyone sort of learned something from that. I'm sure they did. So yeah, no, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, no worries. Follow at kettlebell.carnivore on Instagram. That's me. And Jack, thank you very much for this. It's been great.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. See you in a bit.
See you in a bit.